another session of Anything That Matters, and I have Kas, hang on, I'm going to say Kas Naidoo, aka Queen, and she's going to talk about that in a second. You know what? Kas is a relationship coach, has a history of a story that she's going to share with you in a second. However, we were talking about 2 seconds ago about how the world is. And we were talking about how our mind is the same, our heart's the same, the world would be a different place. You don't tell me a bit about yourself, Kas, what you like to be called. And I want you to expand on exactly what you were talking about, the choices and the consciousness, because I feel really good about that conversation, and let's just let it ride. We've got Kat from South Africa, and Kas from South Africa, and Kat from Down Under. So let's just roll with it. The ball's in your court.
Kat, it's lovely to be here with you. So I think when it comes to relationships, my story started when I got divorced, which is like 28 years ago. I lost count now. But when we get into relationships and when we decide we want to get married, we go in with the fairy tale. I'm going to meet the love of my life. We're going to instantly know, we're going to fall in love, and then we're going to live happily ever after. And that was 100% my expectation. So when we got to a point and we couldn't agree, we couldn't see, we were not on the same page anymore, and I couldn't understand what was going on because I didn't have the tools to communicate on a deeper level. I didn't have the tools to understand, to resolve conflict. I didn't know anything about love languages and attachment styles, nothing. We're not equipped for it. So when I got divorced, I think that was my first awakening. That's when I started asking those deeper questions, who am I? Why am I here? Why do bad things happen to good people? He's a good person. I'm a good person. Like, how did we botch this up royally?
Royally.
So,
true.
So that's my awakening when I started asking those questions. And then I just did a deep dive from there. I was like reading 4 books a week. I was just asking all the questions, and I ended up interviewing over 1,000 people to figure out why is it that some people are single and it's impossible to find a partner? Why is it that some people end up in divorce even though they're good people? And why is it that some people have relationships that last a lifetime where they're still in love with each other? 40, 50, the longest one was 60 years.
Wow.
So yes, yeah. And I think I learned so much from that couple because I saw the kindness that they had for each other. And I think through this journey, I began to find out who I am, why I am here, what my purpose is. And I always feel that when we live a big purpose, it comes from our greatest pain. So when we, if anyone's watching this and is going through a really big challenge at the moment in their lives, know that you won't see it while you're in the midst of it because the pain is too much. But as you move past that, if you consciously do the healing work, if you consciously go within and introspect and ask those tough questions, who am I? Why am I here? Why is this happening? And I always believe that we're not victims in life. So life is never happening to us. Life is always happening for us. And when we make that shift and we ask empowering questions, why is this happening for me? The answers will come flooding in, as opposed to when we say, why is this happening to me, which puts us in victim mode.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get into victim mode, isn't it? It's always poor me. It always happens to me. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Why did my car break down? It always happens to me. I can't find a partner. Oh my God. Love is too hard. It always happens to me. What happens next?
Whatever we focus on expands. So if that's the focus, then you're going to just get more and more of that, which means you're going to attract people and circumstances that are going to reflect that consciousness back to you. But the moment you step into your own power, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit more, but when you step into your own power, that's the moment that you realize I am the creator of my reality. I don't just need to react to everything life throws me. I actually create it. So if I don't like what I've created, I can hit the pause button. I can go within and I can say, okay, how do I recreate? How do I let go of the thoughts, the beliefs, the actions, the emotions, all of it that caused this current reality? How do I release? How do I heal all of that? And then how do I create consciously what it is I truly desire for myself? And it works in relationships, it works with your money, it works with your health and well-being, your level of happiness, it works with all of that. If we awaken and realize I'm a powerful creator of my reality.
So you through your pain of your relationship, which was 5,000 years ago, let's just honor that. It was a long time ago, and you talked about you didn't have the tools. You were still growing, and you were both good people. See, that's a really good point that you said, because a lot of relationships don't break down because they're bad people, do they? They break down
Yeah.
because of what you said. You said you weren't equipped with the tools. So I'm going to ask you this question. If you can ask yourself, the 28 years back person, what would you do differently if you had the tools? And you don't need to be specific in terms of personal stuff, but generally speaking, what would you have done different? Because I'm divorced as well, so I know what I would have done different. Personally, I would have talked more. I would have talked. I would have spoken my words, and I would have set better boundaries, and not these expectations that were false because they were in my reality. My love language was totally wrong with his. I didn't understand it. So what would you have done different that you now teach, because this is what you do?
Yes. Yes. The first thing is, before getting married, so we plan the wedding, right? We spend a year sometimes planning the wedding. We to get the best venue and the flowers and the music and the food and the cake and everything. We spend all that time. I would have planned that, but before all of that, I would have planned the marriage, because the wedding is for one day, but we want the marriage to last a lifetime. So I would have put more time and energy into planning the marriage. Coming together, and like you said, open your mouth, talk, right? So communication is the biggest one. So when we're able to communicate what it is we expect from a marriage, what is our vision of that marriage? Because people don't talk about that.
No.
They are, and they're talking about, how wonderful this life is going to be when they're going to wake up together every day and they're going to go on holidays together, going to have this home together. So we talk about stuff like that, but we don't talk about what is it that you actually expect? Like, what does a normal day look like for you? And what are the absolute deal breakers for you? And what are the absolute must-haves for you? So these are the conversations that need to happen up front. Do we want kids? Don't we want kids? When do we want these kids? What about the finances? Who washes the dishes? Who cooks the food? We need to have all these conversations up front. Beyond that, when we talk about love languages, it's not simply good enough to know what my love language is. I need to know what my partner's love language is, because when I communicate with him in his love language, he feels heard and he feels loved. When he knows what my love language is and he speaks to me in my language, I feel heard and seen and appreciated and loved. So we need to know all of them so that we can communicate in that way. I would definitely have learned how to resolve conflict.
Yeah,
Definitely.
so
Any
true. Hey, I
relationship,
wish I
when
knew.
you have two,
Yeah, yeah. So I
you
wish I
come from
knew the
different.
love languages.
Yeah, yeah. So when we have different backgrounds and we're coming into a relationship, there's different expectations. We think that, what our parents portrayed or modeled to us is how relationships should be, whether it's a healthy portrayal of it or an unhealthy one. Subconsciously, in the first 7 years of our lives, we've been conditioned that this is what relationships look like. So if one of our parents is an avoidant attachment style, that means whenever there's a problem, they run, they hide, they don't want to talk about it. And if one is an anxious type, then it's like, but I need to talk about this. I need to fix this. We need to do this. We can't go to bed until we resolve this. If you've got anxious and you've got avoidant, as a little child, we programmed that this is how relationships work. So we take on one or the other. So we affiliate with one of our parents, and whichever parent we really wanted the love and the acknowledgement, and we didn't get it, as an adult, we'll attract a partner that's very much like that parent in the hope that what I didn't solve with the parent, I'm going to solve with my partner.
Well, that's really interesting that you say that because I'm now thinking about friends. Automatically, I'm thinking friends. And you know how they're saying, oh my God, you've married your father. Oh my God, you've married your mother. So what you're saying is, okay, I want you to say that again so I can just get the gist of it. So what you're
Okay.
saying is, yeah, can you just relay that again?
Okay. So what I'm saying is that if we don't know who we are
Mhm.
because of where we come from and all of the beliefs that we've taken on, if we don't wake up and we start living consciously and start asking the questions, who am I? Why am I here?
Mhm.
What kind of relationship do I want to create? Who do I want to be in this relationship? If we don't ask all of those questions, then we've bought into the fairy tale. We're going in attracting somebody that's going to be the person that's going to offer you the opportunity to resolve your pain.
Yeah.
And those are not great relationships, right? Those are generally the relationships that are short term. They come in, there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of fighting. And we don't realize that the relationship is not there to make you happy. The relationship is there to make you conscious and to help you unleash your greatest potential.
Well, that's
So
interesting.
when we understand that's the true purpose of relationships, it is your self-actualization, then we come in very differently. Now it is observing ourselves as we communicate, as we fight, as we have these expectations, these disappointments. We're observing ourselves and we're constantly growing in that relationship. So if two people come together consciously, so we've done some of the healing work, right? We can't do all of it because we may not be conscious of all of it. So as long as before we get into a relationship, we look at ourselves and we say, what's my attachment style? What's my love languages? How do I resolve conflict? Do I need to go and do some work and learn some skills here? So that when I'm in a relationship, I'm going in just like in a job, right? I will study for 4 or 5 or 6 years before I get this job. So, how much time and energy have I spent learning how to be a great partner, learning how to be in a healthy, meaningful, loving relationship? So we feel this is the fairy tale, but when it comes to our work, we're prepared to put in the time, the energy, the money to learn how to be the best we can be in that job. And I'm saying, Esther Perel always says the state of our lives is determined by the state of our relationships. And I truly believe that.
So
Because if
true.
relationships we're miserable, we're not going to be happy in every other area of our lives because that energy is going to permeate every area of our lives.
Why do you
Um,
think why do you think people don't spend time and money to work on their relationships. And yet, when the car breaks down, automatically you've gone and spent $2,000 to get your car fixed in a heartbeat. You see a Louis Vuitton bag and you're like, oh yeah, I've earned so much this month. I'm so deserving of this bag. Yet you have a really crap relationship. You don't have a partner. You're miserable. You sit at home just drinking your wine. You're going, what? Why do you think? And again, this is grossly generalizing, generally speaking, that we don't do the inner work. Why is that?
Yes. Yeah.
Because people
It's
like you exist for that reason, but why don't we?
yeah, it's because of, again, our conditioning. If our parents didn't do it and their parents didn't do it, then we're not taught that when I'm in a situation where I'm feeling all this pain and I don't know what to do, that I can actually ask for help. So we've been socialized to believe that we've got to put on a smile and put on some lipstick and we've got to show up and everything's great. And with social media, we only post when we're out on a vacation with our partners and we're having this great meal with our partners. We're having this anniversary celebration. So when we look, we think everybody's happy. Right? Everybody's so happy. So if I'm unhappy, I can't talk about this. I can't put this out there. And I think, that is the greatest shame, because I feel if we can just all be authentic,
Yeah,
if we can be vulnerable and say, right now I'm hurting and I don't feel like slapping on this lipstick and putting on the smile and showing, I don't feel like it.
yeah,
If we can just be honest,
yeah,
and you'll see, there's everybody else is in the same place you are. Then you got a whole new tribe. And
yeah.
then within the you're supporting each other, you're listening to each other, you're being real. And that's where the growth takes place, the evolution takes place.
So
When we can
true.
just, yeah. I
Because
mean,
you
if
don't,
I
yeah,
break my hand, I'm not gonna, be quiet about it.
no.
Oh, I'm the doctor and say, well, reset this arm.
Yeah, you will. It's like when a friend will come to you and if a friend were to come to you and say they're upset, you will listen. You'll sit there and listen, and you're not going to
Yes,
turn
and
them
we don't
away.
judge. Yeah.
So you should do
We're,
the
we're we're not judging them for that. And
same.
I'm not saying you've got to go and vomit all over social media.
No. Although
Item.
I
This is
did vomit in my book. I have to say, I wrote a book last year. I did vomit in my book. And you know what? I was too scared to tell my mum. I didn't want her to read
yes,
it. And she said, Katerina, in Greek, my mum passed away 5 months ago. Today, actually today, my mum passed away. I was her carer. Strong, boisterous woman. I don't know where I got the kahunas from. And I didn't want her to read because I didn't want her to read it because I didn't want her to feel what my truth was in my growing up, in my upbringing. I had a really good upbringing. However, you only see what your little eyes as a child only see what your little eyes see as a child, and they only understand what they see as a child. They can
oh,
only,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. That points again to our conditioning. Like we've been conditioned to please people. Then people will love us and accept us. And as little children, especially, we need to be taken care of. So we will do the people pleasing, and to get that to survive,
yeah, it
right?
is. It really is, isn't it?
And then yes, we do that. And then we don't let it go. So if the conditioning is there and we haven't addressed it, then we will live out the rest of our lives with that conditioning in place. But the moment we can look at ourselves and say, I notice myself doing certain things consistently, it's a pattern. So when I notice this pattern, where did it come from? Where did it originate? Why is it that I do this over and over again? Because when our challenges come to us, initially it comes as a whisper. So if we're talking relationships, it might just be like, an argument that we had. Um, Not a big thing, and then if we don't listen, that, hey, hold on, I need to go and revisit my beliefs and where they come from. I need to revisit my behavior, the emotions I've stuffed down. If we don't do it, then the challenge comes again, but now it's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more in your face, right? So the challenges get bigger and bigger and bigger. This is how kind the universe is. Keep giving you challenge after challenge, bigger and
Yep.
bigger, until you get it. And unfortunately, when we're living unconsciously, we don't get it. We don't get it. We don't get it. Life is just getting worse. It's getting chaotic until it gets to a point where we lose everything. Either you have an extreme physical ailment, or you have the divorce happening, or you lose something that's huge. At
Yeah.
that point, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice but to wake up and say, why did this happen? Why did this happen? I'm a good person. Why did this happen? And that's how we wake up. But we're living in times right now where we don't need to wait for the hurt to become unbearable to wake up. We can decide right here in this moment that I want to live more consciously. I want to be aware of who I am, why I'm here, what is my purpose, how do I behave in different situations, how do I behave with my friends, how do I behave with my family, how do I behave with money, how do I show up in the world? If I have a purpose, am I quiet about it and I'm sitting somewhere hoping somebody will discover me one day? Or am I out there saying, this is me, this is my purpose, this is why I'm here to change the world?
You are. You are. You're so passionate about what you do. I love it. I can feel the fire in your belly, and that's really cool. How would you how so what would you say to somebody if you talked about the subconscious and the unconscious? How do they bring that out? How do they find that without having the point, by getting to the point where they've hit the wall and they've had that absolute heightened experience where life has happened to them to have the circuit breaker? Because circuit breakers are not great. You learn, hopefully you learn, but generally they're not great, but you learn, hopefully. So
Yes.
what would you suggest?
Okay, so the way to do it less painfully is to take a pause and say, I know I'm here for a reason. And with most people, that comes up at some point in their lives where we have this feeling inside of us that I'm meant for something greater. I don't know what it is, but I'm meant for something greater. And when you have that moment, or when you have that moment when you can't handle the stuff that's going on in your life, take a pause and say, hold on, this is happening for me. So if it's happening for me, who am I meant to be in this situation? Am I ready for some? Whenever we have pain, it is almost like your next level is ready to be birthed. So it's
I
those
love
labor,
that. I
right?
love that.
So if we look at our challenges instead of like, oh my goodness, why is this happening to me now? You know, that we take the pause and we say, am I ready for my next level? What would my next level look like? And we start asking those deeper questions, empowering questions, right? The poor me, woe is me, why is it happening to me? Those are disempowering questions.
They
But
are.
empowering questions mean
Yeah.
I know I'm born for a reason. What is that reason?
Yeah. If you consistently say to yourself, you're ready to, it's your next rebirthing. So I have another quick question for you. Do you follow? Because we have very different parts of our body, right? We have the brain. What do you follow when it comes to relationships? I'm going to throw you in the hot seat. When it comes to relationships, what do you follow? Do you follow your heart? Do you follow your mind? Or do you follow your gut? Because they're both three different. What would you do?
Such a brilliant question. Okay, so when we look at ourselves, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Men have both masculine and feminine energy. Women have both masculine and feminine energy. The mind is masculine, the emotions, the gut is feminine. The spiritual is masculine, the physical is feminine. So when we learn that in order for me to come into my wholeness, I've got to harmonize both my masculine and my feminine energy. I've got to bring those two together. And I'm not saying balance because that means 50-50. And I'm saying harmonize. Because if you're a woman, we want to have slightly dominant feminine energy. If you're a man, you want slightly dominant masculine. So the masculine is the thinking, that's the mind. It's the analyzing, the doing, it's the setting goals, it's the striving, it's the taking action. The feminine is the intuitive. It's the creativity, it's playful, it's nurturing, it is kind, it is receiving energy. So can you see we need to give and receive? We need to do and be. We need both of these energies. So when I need to make a decision, I go first to my feminine, right? So that is now, it's how do I feel about this? What's my gut telling me? What can I create here? What is it that I desire? So that's the feminine. And from that space, I will get my intuition coming in. I'll get my guidance, I'll get my downloads, and then I call in the masculine energy to take action.
What a great breakdown. That is brilliant. That is really brilliant. I know you've got more to say, but continue on. Oh, like that's really cool. Because that is something that, do you follow your gut? Do you follow your heart? Do you follow your brain? Because I know they're all intertwined, however. So that's a really good analogy as to why you do what you do sometimes.
Yes, yes. And, to open another can of worms, we've lived in the patriarchy for the last 2000 years, right?
Uh-huh.
So to that, there was the goddess worship. So that's feminine energy. Now we've got the patriarchy on the side, that is masculine energy. So it's a swing of the pendulum from one side to the other. And the times that we're living in right now is we want to bring this masculine and feminine into harmony. We want to bring those two and we want to come into the state where we activate both these energies within ourselves. Because if you have too much masculine energy, that is where you get the toxic masculinity, you get the wars, you get the fighting, you get the control, you get undermining, and we don't want that. If you've got excessive toxic feminine energy, then it's the manipulation, it's demanding, it's the diva, it's, I want what I want. That kind of energy is not healthy either. But when we can come into a space of that harmony within us, then we're really tapping into our gut, our emotions, we're tapping into our inner wisdom, the guidance that is there and available for us all the time. When we tap into that and then take action, that's the masculine. Then we make our plans, then we set our goals, then we take action. Oh, what a beautiful world we will live in. What amazing, epic relationships we will create because we're coming in as a whole person. I'm not half a person looking for my other half to come here and complete me. I'm already complete. I'm complete. I attract another person that is complete. Now these two come together and we can create those epic relationships that I believe every single one of us deserves.
Oh my God, thank you so much for coming on board. I think you're amazing at what you say and what you do. It's the inner wisdom that you just said. You said the inner wisdom. Can you just imagine if we didn't, because I'm doing a self-reflection, obviously, because I can only do the self-reflection. And I'm doing the self-reflection where you're talking about, can you just imagine if we didn't run with the masculine side where it's the action taker, decision maker, and you run full ball and you just tapped into the other side, it wouldn't be so. Does that make sense? Because it's
Yes,
sometimes
yes.
Because a lot of the times that for me, when I was younger, I would be more of the masculine side would come out. Does that make sense? And I wouldn't use the
That's
feminine side. And I found the feminine
yeah,
side
yeah, yeah.
in my late 30s. I'm now in my probably late 30s, early 40s. I tapped into that because of my childhood conditioning.
Yeah, yeah. And Kat, I'm going to tell you this, almost every independent woman that I know, every woman that has her own business or she's in some leadership role, we are all masculine energy dominant.
Yeah, I know.
So
We've got to
now
let that go a bit.
the awareness.
It took me a long time to mold the both to find a balance. And I have to
Yeah,
I have to take myself out of myself and go, where am I
yeah,
at? Oh, is that coming out? That's not serving the purpose for the other person because they don't understand that. Only I understand that.
yes, yes. And if we still remain in the patriarchy, then we're saying that emotions are weak, right? Don't show emotion, and we've got to suppress that. And we value spiritual over physical. So somehow the physical, the desire is evil. Can you see how the feminine has been suppressed, the emotions and the body, whereas
Totally.
the spiritual has been elevated? So we
Totally.
need to now look at that and say, no, all four of those are equally important for
Ah,
us to come into
so
and
true.
whole. Yeah.
So true. All four, without a doubt. And that is probably what that's something that I wrote about. That's exactly what, in fact, I did a series called I'm Too Pretty because it was a reverse
Ah,
engineering. I was too pretty and I was
right.
told I'm too pretty to do XYZ. So I I molded myself into a masculine with who I was. And then I didn't love who I became. But I didn't
Yes.
see it till I broke my marriage down, and you have the heightened experience because relationships break
Yeah.
down, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. And because why? Why? Because I didn't have the tools. I didn't know any better. And it's exactly
Absolutely.
what you said. We don't have to wait till we're 100 to make a change, to find your balance, to find your harmony. I'm so glad you said that. So
Mm.
glad. Your inner
Yeah,
wisdom.
if we make the present moment is all we have. This is where our full power lies. And if in this present moment we can make those decisions, I know there's a higher calling for me. I know that I have my genius and it's time to let it out. It's time to give it a voice. It's time to show up. And when we do that, when we do the work here on ourselves, it impacts every area of our lives. It impacts all our relationships, parents, kids, partners, all of it. It impacts our work and our finances. It impacts our health and well-being. All of it is impacted when we do the work on us because we're the common denominator.
So true. Do the work on us and don't let it go. I think that's the moral of today's story. Just do the work. Do the
Yeah.
work. Do the homework. Do the homework.
Yes,
Just
yes.
do
Because
it
I think,
already.
like my awakening must have happened like 28 years ago because I'm coaching now for 24 years.
Yeah.
And when I say that, sometimes I think, gee, that's big. It makes me quite old. And then I think, no, 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 that makes me
Oh
quite
my
wise.
God. You're so, I think I just quietly, I think we're the same vintage. We are possibly the same vintage. That actually makes that actually warms my heart. So thank you so much, Cass, Queen Cat, from one
Thank you so much.
cat to a cat. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I so appreciate
To
you.
another. Yes.
You have an awesome night, awesome morning, awesome evening, wherever it is you're coming from. Bye for now.
Thank you, Kat. Goodbye.
Thank you. See ya.